This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Monday, 18th March, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. The homecoming ceremony for Trinidad and Tobago's representative and newly crowned Miss World Caribbean and the Americas, Miss Ashley Abrahams, will take place today, Monday, 18th March at 6 p.m. at the Piarco International Airport. Miss Abrams based in the top four of the recent Miss World pageant, which was held on Saturday, the 9th of March in Mumbai, India. Her placing was evidenced by her top ranking in the head-to-head challenge, speaking on topics related to sustainable development, her many passionate interviews with the judges, exceptional singing abilities, and talent segment. Her graceful stage presence was accoladed by the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition. Senior police officers were called into emergency meetings yesterday following a spike in homicides through the country over the weekend, which saw 10 people killed in one weekend. 5 people were ambushed and fatally shot on Saturday morning at Har Place in Port of Spain. Among the victims was Police Sergeant Larry Phillips. Phillips, 51, was attached to the TNT Police Service police band. The other victims were identified as Rudolph James, Ranji Graves, 32, Peter Norrie, 49, Devon Jack, 42. 3 other people were also injured when the gunmen opened fire. Later that afternoon, Saturday, 1 man was fatally shot at the Chaguanas Market. And on Friday, Anil Maharaj, 50, was fatally shot while walking near his home in Dabadi. And Paul Cook, 33, was shot dead at Summer Hill, Claxton Bay, while Kester McAllister, an outpatient of the St. Anne's Psychiatric Hospital, was shot dead in Mova. And on Thursday morning, the bullet-riddled body of Indar Boris, 43, was found in a riverbank near his home in Valencia. Police are investigating all instances of the murders. Meantime, the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, has assured the population that the state agencies will not give up the fight to rid the nation of widespread gun culture in TNT. The Prime Minister's statement, which came through the office of the PM on Facebook on Saturday evening, was in response to the deadly shooting at Har Place in East Port of Spain. Dr. Rowley said the incident, in which 5 people lost their lives at one location while 3 others were killed elsewhere, brings home the depth and problem that the government is grappling with. He added, increasing total wanton disregard for human life is to be condemned in the soundest of ways. Dr. Rowley sent his condolences to the families who are experiencing the pain and traumatizing the entire nation. The saga continues at the country's top intelligence gathering agency, the Strategic Agent Services Agency, SSA, as the TNT Police Service has reportedly seized several guns from the SSA. The guns are expected to undergo forensic testing to see whether or not they were used in any murders now being linked to the agency. Sources indicated the SSA, whose primary role is intelligence gathering, has now been linked to 3 murders: the 29th murder of Brian Felix and Aleem Khan, whose bodies were found in a forested part of Komodo on October 13th, and CCTV contractor Andy Daniel. Daniel was shot and killed while parked on the northbound lane of the Uriah Butler Highway around midday on November 11th, 2023. A new camera system is being installed along the country's roadways with the aim of tackling traffic congestion and reducing the country's crime. This revealed by Works and Transport Minister Rohan Sinan, who spoke with the media at the intersection of the Churchill Roosevelt Highway and Golden Grove Road in Piarco. At the time, he was revealing workings and reasoning behind the installation of the new 360-degree detection cameras, which are going to be placed along major traffic intersections across the country. Sinan said these new cameras will be above the ground, which will help to manage the traffic flows in the country. The cameras are 360 degrees, so it can see traffic in all directions and can aid with the changing of lights, and traffic signals can be synchronized. The cost of each unit has been put at $200,000. The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, says one of its aid containers at Haiti's main port, stocked with essential items for maternal, neonatal, and child survival, was looted as gangs increasingly control the capital, Port-au-Prince. Haiti is struggling to resolve long-running political and humanitarian crises, and the Children's Agency, UNICEF, has warned it's causing record hunger and life-threatening malnutrition in parts of the capital. UNICEF said one of its 17 containers had been located at the Port-au-Prince ports, where it said 260 humanitarian-owned containers were controlled now by armed groups. And finally, Russian President Vladimir Putin has thanked Russians for putting their trust in him as he celebrated his inevitable election win. Mr. Putin received applause and cheers from supporters as he claimed victory and the fifth term in power. Putin won the fifth term as Russia's president by a landslide, 87% of the vote, according to Russian exit polls. The head of Russia's Electoral Commission says the turnout for the election over the weekend was 77.44%, a record in post-Soviet era. He faced no credible opposition candidate. The Kremlin tightly controls Russia's political systems, media, and elections. Germany called the pseudo-election, while the US said the vote was obviously not free nor fair. Ukraine's President Zelensky said Putin was sick for power and is doing everything to rule forever. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 8 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Minutes after the hour is 6 o'clock on this, the 18th day of March. Good morning to you. It is SEA week. Oh, yeah, it is. All right. Of course, fullcasting this morning, it is from Paul Richards. We'll hear from Wendell Stephen. We'll hear from Richard Ragoobarsingh. We got Ruben and Shane in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. Quickly, let's see what's happening on the highways and on the byways. You got some traffic from Cuba towards Sugar Gornas, and after that, just volume heading to the interchange and into Port of Spain. Little traffic from Trinidad City to Orange Grove, Eastern Main Road, not too bad this time. San Fernando, nothing really to tell you about. All right, it is 26 degrees at Piaco International Airport, 28 at Crown Point in Tobago. And let's say good morning going out to Super Paul.
Good morning, Steve Cannon. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, my friend. What's happening? How was your weekend?
It was quiet.
Oh, geez. I had the opposite to you then.
Let me say good morning. Happy belated birthday to Melissa Stanislaus. She celebrated her birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Mel.
Mel. And today is also the birthday of Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Happy birthday to you, Ray. Hope you have a great one. Yeah, so all the best to you. Have a good one today. All right.
Today my sugar fast begins also.
Say again?
My sugar fast begins today.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna be cranky by midday. Well, I had a cup of coffee already with some milk, but that's about all the sugar I have for the day. All the unnatural sugar, that is. I eat fruit and stuff, so that will have sugar in it. But to say I'm putting sugar and stuff, and sugar juices and sodas, no. See how that goes.
We'll see how long that lasts. Let's see who sent us hellos first thing this morning. Of course, good morning going to Mo Gaines. Good morning to Garcelia out in Valencia. Mrs. R is up early, would you believe? Wendy and James, DJ Ray out in Tampa, Marcia Rock in Orlando, Oliver Man Warren, Rena Boodoo Jennings, Sasha out in London, CJ New York, D. Pierre, good morning. Wayne B in Covington, Georgia, Pearl Cordes, birthday girl, Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning to you. Anyhow, Miguel, Shanifa Ali out in Grande, Carl M. Jack, Nikisha Pierre, Anthony Tinto out in Ontario, Canada, Richard Duku, Josie Richardson, Trinidad Margot, Michael Robinson out in Yokohama, Japan, Brenda Isaac, good morning to you. Karen Yipnow just snuck in. Wow, that's a lot of messages. Let's see who sent us messages on WhatsApp.
Good morning, Wendell.
Hi, morning, guys. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning, listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
How are you all doing?
Not bad. So we got some here. We got Dan Raj in Central, GNC Auto Security, Michael out in London. I got Val. Morning to you, Val. And somebody says, happy birthday to Corey's mom, Sandra Blacks. All right. Thank you, Debbie. So Corey's mom, happy birthday to you. There's a lot of messages coming in this morning, man. Going through WhatsApp like crazy here.
Yeah, I can add to those birthday greetings. Beverly Logier, I think that's Sir Charles's relative. It's one of his. Is it his wife or his mother-in-law? I think it's his mother-in-law. Joan Chi from the Port of Spain Corporation, now retired. Kelvin Camino, also from the Port of Spain Corporation, retired. Sandra Pascal, who is, of course, Corey's mom. She is celebrating her birthday today. Gerard Laurel. Katrina Hamilton. Maxi Coffey, former government minister, former member of parliament and government minister. He's celebrating his birthday today. Gaddafi Romney was... Gaddafi. Well, it doesn't have the I at the end here, you know. It just has Gaddafi. She is celebrating her birthday. Chris Sergio is also celebrating his birthday, and Kyle Chung, all celebrating birthdays today. Yesterday was Melissa Stanislaus's birthday. Belated birthday greetings, Melissa Stanislaus, and baby girl Rachel from West Palm Beach. Happy belated birthday greetings also. All right.
Let's certainly welcome home to Asha Abraham. She's coming home this evening. She's due to land at 6 p.m.
British Airways.
People go up to the airport and welcome her home in fine style. She's done us so proudly. So, welcome home, Asha.
Yes, welcome home.
That's the good news?
Well, the better news is that I went to Parliament. Did you all know that there's a way to get to Parliament through the Maracas Road?
Yeah.
But I never knew that.
The concrete road? Sure.
Yeah.
On your left, yeah.
I have never, but I haven't been to Parliament in a long time, first to begin with. And I have this friend who lives up there. He has some land and so on. So I haven't heard from him for a long. Yeah?
You see the south and you see the north on the top of the road. Beautiful.
Yeah, but he lives literally on a mountain. You know, I watched the drive. I said, Jason, this vehicle going up that road? I said, you got to be kidding. Say, don't worry, no, man.
You passed that beautiful wedding venue or events venue going up.
Yeah, they have a lot of nice places up there, actually.
Yeah, stunning.
You know?
Beautiful, beautiful views.
And I went to the lookout that they have. Oh, it's flowering nicely. The flowers.
Levige.
What's the name? What's the name of it?
I think it's Levige.
Levige, yeah. Some. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of tourists because there was a tourist ship. There was a cruise ship.
There was a ship in port yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are quite a bit of tourists up there. With the jeeps, they all came up with the jeeps and so on. You know. So it was nice. It was. I enjoyed the day yesterday. I picked coconut. I picked limes. I walked through the bush. You know, it was nice. A nice different Sunday. I haven't had a relaxing day like that. So thanks, Jason.
Yesterday was scorching hot. Ooh, yesterday was heat.
Yeah, it's been very hot. But
so that's the good news.
Up there was so cool and nice, eh? You wouldn't believe it.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
So we made an effort to start with some good news.
Yeah.
I Dan Raj, I think Dan Raj is celebrating his birthday today. So happy birthday to you. Captain Ron, good morning to you as well.
Morning.
You ready for the real news now?
Well, what else is outside of that massacre in Port of Spain on Saturday?
But not only Port of Spain.
Yeah. But Port of Spain was the massacre.
The worst of it, but there were murders in other parts of the country too.
And shots were passing again last night in Port of Spain.
I don't know. My understanding of the news is reporting that senior officers were called into emergency meetings yesterday to try to deal with this this issue that happened over the weekend. 9 to 10 murders.
11, I think.
Some people are reporting 11 murders, 5 in one place. You know, the drive-by. Was it a drive-by at her place?
Well, a drive-in, because you don't drive by her place. You drive into there. You understand?
Including a police sergeant. Condolences to the family of Larry Phillip, who was attached to the police band, and the other victims were identified as Rudolph James, Ranji Graves, Peter Norrie, Devon Jack.
One of whom I know because I met him during the football season of the Port of Spain Corporation football season. He played football. He worked at the public health department of Port of Spain Corporation.
It's just so disturbing.
It's crazy. When I got that news first, I thought it was an old video. You know, when I first saw the video, I didn't realize it was something that was actually just happened. And I thought it was just a shooting when I realized that so many people were killed. You know? And for what? The news reporting that the person who they came for was not even there, and they decided to send a message. Is that how? I got tired of talking about that incident over the weekend.
People also killed in Dabadie, Claxton Bay, Mova, and Valencia. And Chaguanas.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister, via the OPM Facebook page, assured that the state agencies will not give up the fight to rid the nation of widespread gun culture. The Minister of National Security also chimed in and said if the country will use the madness which occurred at her place as a call for determined action, or if it will be business as usual. I'm trying to figure out what they call for what the population going to do. Could someone tell me?
The population, and I had this discussion over the weekend. At the end of the day, to me, are the only people who could fix this. Because in these areas, they know exactly who these people are. They know exactly where their guns are. They know exactly what they're up to. And yet still, right, I understand that they are scared for their lives. I understand all these issues. But the majority has to come together.
So is it that whenever we have a crime wave, and we've had crime waves for several decades in this country, the population is the one to fix it? No. And I'm not discounting the fact that the population has a role, you know, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Population does have a role. But who has the primary role?
But Paul, I said it over the weekend also too, and I mean I got tired of talking after.
What's the primary role?
Because it just appears to me that the state through the TTPS powerless.
And other agencies.
Yeah, they're powerless. The customs, where the guns coming in, the Coast Guard, where coming on boats, everybody seemed powerless to me.
So deferring to the population, to me, is not necessarily the response any person in the population want to hear at this point.
I know. I know.
People are going to give a long watery strips to that.
I know.
But the population is unable to fix this. Yes, the population has a role.
But we've been down this road before, and guess what?
So then what we're giving all these powers to agencies for?
We're going down.
Yeah, and resources. What are we doing that for?
You know what road we're going down now? The political road. So David Nackett shows up in a press conference. This one will say that. This one will say the other. And it's just a circle and a cycle of nonsense that we're going to be engaging in again over innocent lives that have been lost. I fed up. You understand? That's the circle. Because we had it under the UNC government. We had it under Manning government. We had it under the People's Partnership government.
And that's my point. Was there the assertion then that is the population that will fix it?
Well, I'm consistent with what I say. I can't help you with what other people say.
Right.
I'm consistent.
I don't think it was the assertion then that the population will fix it. Okay?
I said I'm consistent with what I say.
Right. So, deferring to the population under these circumstances to me is.
Because
And
I
the saga
actually made,
continues at the country's top intelligence gathering agencies. The understanding in the newspaper is that the several guns have been seized and they're expected to undergo forensic testing.
guns from where?
The SSA.
Oh, you mean that
There were
belong to them?
exposés in, I think, the Express under Mark Bassant. Which indicated that there is now the suggestion that there are 3 murders being linked to the SSA. The 2019 murders of Brian Felix and Aleem Khan, whose bodies were found in part of Komodo on October 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy Daniel, of course, Andy Daniel was the husband of, what's the lady's name? Is it Joanne Daniel?
Joanne Bartholomew Daniel.
Deputy Director of the SSA.
Deputy Director of Intelligence.
Of Intelligence of the SSA, thanks for
Yeah.
the correction.
Mm-hmm.
And he was killed in what clearly was a hit, an orchestrated hit, where the part of the article suggested that he may have received a message, and the message may have not come from the person who it seemed to have come from.
Yes.
And he stopped to respond to the message. He pulled aside, and a car pulled alongside and fired shots, and he was killed.
Yep. A black X trail.
So now this article, which I ain't see the proof in the article yet, by the way, is making linkages that I guess they can substantiate at some point.
Well, the other one about the guys who were killed in the land, over the land.
Mm-hmm.
They said the church has land next to their land, next to Aleem Khan's land. That's the link that they made, and it might have been a dispute over the land. The same church, eh?
Well, because and these are the kinds of conjectures that I have difficulty in absorbing.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Without bona fide prosecutable evidence to support these, because this happened next to this, and because this, you understand?
Yeah.
And writing whole articles without any shred of evidence because you're hating.
Well, I saw a former official of the SSA almost kind of rubbished it on Facebook.
But it's a whole article, Wendell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's not unusual for that writer to write like that. Those writers.
Not, but the writer isn't publishing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have evidence and stuff that we don't know that they can't publish, that they could write this, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying take me a little closer to the evidence now.
I don't think he's known for doing that.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Take me a little closer to the evidence to support it now.
Yeah. Time will tell. Listen.
Or time will not tell.
Or time will not tell. And I'm going to say, I don't have any hope that in our lifetime we are going to get anywhere near the end of this situation. I have no hope at all. You understand? None.
So
eventually, 10 years go past, and these people might still be on suspension.
Every week is something new with this SSA, according to the article. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
I wish former Ambassador Philip Spencer all the luck in the world because he will need it.
He will definitely need it.
He will need it because I just read this article yesterday and said, okay, I'm going through the article. I'm saying, all right, it's, really front page material, if this can be substantiated. And I'm going through the article. I'm saying, but where lead me closer to,
Mm-hmm. Maybe there are other articles to come out. Because the papers had to sell every week, Can't sell all in one weekend.
Okay.
You understand? You know? So
You see, the way to do it is to say the SSA. Because if you call a name, it's a different response you're going to get. You understand?
yes.
If you say X and Y kill, you have a different level of responsibility, you know. But if you say the agency,
But
your lawyers will tell you you're on solid ground.
In the Andy Daniel incident, though, they made clear linkages, you know. The linkages were very clear, you know. In terms of when he traveled, he come back home, the locks were changed, he went to church, he was fed this liquid.
He was allegedly fed.
Well,
he was fed coconut water, allegedly, supposedly poisoned.
Right. So I go on with what the article saying, right?
But
the article didn't allege nothing, you know.
So you're willing to go to court by repeating what's in the article?
No, I'm saying what the article made clear linkages.
You're right, but the article called no names.
They didn't.
And that's my point. That's where you have the cover. That's where you have the leeway.
Yeah.
Because if you call a name and link it to murder, you're going to have a different level of responsibility.
Yes.
It's easy to make conjecture and loose linkages to an agency. You understand? Because the agency has, 200, 300 people in it? Yeah. So,
but Paul, the articles aren't new enough.
No, they're not.
Articles
the information in the article is not new.
Articles that came out before, you know.
No, I am aware. We are aware. We are aware, sir.
And I'm sure you know more people than I know in some of these agencies. And
yes,
you may have heard more than I heard.
Yes, I have.
All of these things.
Yes, I have, but I'm going to write no article without evidence to support what I'm writing.
Yeah.
To sell airtime and papers.
It's just worrying that people could be living the lives that some people are living right now. You understand?
Good morning, Ragoobarsingh.
Good morning, guys, and good morning, Tom.
Promptitude.
Yeah, you were very prompt this morning.
Yeah.
So good morning, guys. Good morning to our listeners and viewers, wherever you are. You were almost instantaneous.
Well, I'm never instantaneous, but I'm quite prompt often.
I said
Well, he was a little too early on Friday when he brought my roti for me. And instead of bringing a mini roti, he bring one big macro roti. So
I don't deliver small things.
But thanks for the roti on Friday, Paul. I enjoyed it. I had to cut it in half and share it, but it was too big, you know. I shared with Harper, and Richard came afterwards and had a drink with me, and so Friday I say, hey, but like I'm feeling special. I feel like I do good on radio. I feel like instead of my invoice was being increased, like I get a roti and a drink.
Lando is saying, Paul, but you had Ian on here making baseless allegations, even reading his tasteless WhatsApp. But he challenged him on several of his comments.
Who Ian?
The Pastor Ian Brown, that's his name.
Oh.
We challenged him on several of his assertions and comments. That's the difference. We don't just swallow it. Anyway.
That's an ongoing saga, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Reading that Sunday Guardian, was it the Sunday Guardian report? Among others, considering the it just
I find they should say the published novels.
It just seems ever expanding. It's like two concurrent movies taking place in Trinidad at the same time.
It's like a Marvel series.
One is a horror movie and one is an action movie.
You have Thor here and you have Superman over here.
Yeah.
Both from
one
the
is a horror movie
studios.
That's taking place, and one is an action and espionage thriller that is taking place on the other hand. It is incredulous. It's the kind of reading from those two main stories that have occupied us last week. It's kind of reading that makes international reading, you know.
Yes.
By you say international, congratulations to Vladimir Putin. He actually won the election. We're so surprised. Vladimir Putin won the election in Russia. Oh my God! But I mean, that was such a close race.
For a
Then
fifth
he
term.
might get back his partner before the end of the year.
Who's
Who
his
is that?
partner?
Who's his partner?
In America.
Or Trump? Yeah. Might. Okay. Might. Right now, the bots and the robots and the background people getting the sessions ready to onslaught the internet.
Yes.
And he will help the partner get back in power, Putin.
He going full pelt, you know.
Oh yes. You understand? Never a dull moment. So congratulations to Vladimir Putin. He said the election was one of the landmark elections. Good news in Trinidad and Tobago. The Minister of Works and Transport, Rohan Sinanan, who spoke with the media at the intersection of the Churchill Roosevelt Highway and the Golden Grove Road in Piarco, commented on new cameras being installed, 360-degree cameras at major intersections in the country and along the east-west corridor between Diego Martin and Piarco and near Gulf City. Each unit had an estimated average cost of $200,000. And they are above ground, Richard, they're listening to you, which will mean the cost of maintenance is 20% what they would have done with the below ground system. And they are intended to aid to alleviate traffic congestion by helping the ground central traffic control area manage traffic more effectively and help law enforcement deal with crime.
Yeah, I thought that was an excellent move by the Ministry of Works and Transport. Well done.
But it makes sense because criminals, we've said it for over decades. Criminals have to use roads.
Yes. And they have to stop by lights or pass by traffic lights. So that's the perfect place to put them.
That is where the metropolis of the world make inroads into apprehending criminals minutes after they commit crimes. Minutes after. Because we have to use roads.
I read that article about those cameras, but what you're saying, he was at the intersection of Churchill Roosevelt and Golden Grove. Doing what?
When you're speaking with the media.
They had a press conference there. To
deal with the camera.
Maybe to deal with other things with the camera. Yeah, but I also saw a simulation online about the new O'Meara interchange. Is it being called, or is it a big roundabout?
Interchange by O'Meara, yes.
Yeah, that has also been, I think, launched. The sod may have been turned or something. That's supposed to help alleviate traffic around that area also. So,
well, they started turning that's ongoing.
Yeah, that project started already.
Yeah, so that is ongoing. A lot of projects. I wonder. I saw a sod turning for a housing development by citrus growers.
Yeah, citrus groves, they call it.
Right here. A lot of sod is being turned.
But there's supposed to be another one that
is it sod turning season or something that I didn't know about?
Yeah, but you know that one by citrus growers there that they're doing. Remember, there was supposed to be one lower down. Like if you exit the bus route and you turn left, you have to turn left. Well,
right before the bridge. Yeah,
there was supposed to be one on your right. And remember, a Chinese company had received the contract, and then there was an objection to some contract clause, and it went out the window. Similarly, there was one supposed to be up by Memorial Park.
The Prime Minister spoke about that the other day. He said that is coming.
Well, he said he was really referencing it with regard to a public-private partnership. And that's supposed to be a multi-facility kind of area. Besides the apartments, it was supposed to have retail and a supermarket, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I wish they would just get these things done.
They also turned this out for the new Ministry of Social Development offices by where the old printry was on Tragweed Road. That site has been hoarded off, and they're going to...
Well, you're right, boys. Sun turning ceremony. Sun turning.
I wonder why. How?
Let's think about that for a second.
It's just curious.
Let's think about that for a second.
Coincidental that all these sods are being turned at this time. You know what's coming next, Steve? Guess what's coming next?
Hopefully the Macoya interchange and the Golden Grove Road interchange.
I am sure.
That's why I got excited when you said interchange.
Guess what's the ultimate symbol?
Well, elections is next year.
Road paving.
Although somebody
no, but road paving has been going on for a while now.
That's true. It's been ongoing.
It's been going on for a while. I just
when
wish to get to
next
that
year?
interchange at Macoya and that interchange at Golden Grove. And
when
I would still love somebody to explain to me that flyover in Western Trinidad. Because every time I pass it, I'm confused. I'm like, where is this going?
I'm afraid to drive because I don't know where it's going.
I am always confused. I don't know if Western people know what it is. It almost seems as if it's solely for the people in that. In the
well, you know what it is? It is
the housing complex.
If you're coming out of Diego Martin, and you wanted to go west, you had to go down to Mucurapo Lights to make a U-turn and come back. So that really is, so now when you're coming out of Diego Martin, you could turn right, come to your roundabout.
Red blankets coming out, boy. Woo! Look at the chat.
No, well, Steve, you didn't have to go down to Mucurapo Lights. You could have turned. Remember, there's always a turn off.
The red blankets.
There used to be a U-turn available. I don't know if they had stopped it.
Oh no, that was stopped.
It was a U-turn.
Yeah, that U-turn.
That was stopped years ago.
No, recently.
Come in.
You have to go down by the Diego Martin, by the roundabout. Yes, Rena, and the time so, like if damned if you do, damned if you don't. Or they get, but let me tell you something, UDCOT, we have always been high in praise of UDCOT on this program. At least I have been, and I know Richard. High in praise of UDCOT in terms of their delivery,
yes,
and their work ethic.
UDCOT is an agency that has delivered quite a bit for decades.
Yeah, especially under Noel Garcia. Nah,
has delivered.
He's a go-getter.
I know the Arima Administrative Complex is one of those, but I'm not so sure where it's at. But
as you said, the Arima Administrative Complex, what's happening in Arima? How's your mayor going? Yes, let me get it. Just hold on. Don't move.
You gotta unfreeze him.
Don't move.
Frozen.
How's your mayor, Richard? That's like acting character. He freezed it for long. He freezed it for long, boy. How's your mayor going? Anything from Arima yet?
I have no clue. I think, but I could tell you, for people who don't know, the market, the outside market, they're going to build a shed. So I heard, because they cut down the big tree that was in the middle of that external market, the outside market, and they're going to build a shed for vendors and stuff like that. So I asked somebody who was telling me, I said, when you say a shed, what do you mean? Is it just a shed, or is it a proper facility that's air conditioned for vendors or with fans? Because if you build a shed and heat in Trinidad and Tobago, because it will be more expansive and big, it's going to be hot. So I said, so when they say shed, what do you mean? What kind of shed is this? Is it going to be, a proper shed? Because I saw a video of the Sabo market. The Sabo market is absolutely pristine. Absolutely pristine. I was shocked when I saw the video of the Sabo market, and this was a vlog on YouTube, and they walked through the Sabo market, and it was so clean and well ordered it was, and I was like, what? When are other markets in Trinidad and Tobago going to be like that? And so I don't know if it's furtherance of that, or if it's just what they mean is a shed is really a shed that they're just going to put up, and people going to be under a hot shed. I don't. But that work is ongoing right now. I have seen that. There's some roads that need paving in Arima. I don't know if the Ministry of Works is aware, but there are quite a few roads that needs paving. Not including that road. Including that one that runs alongside the market right there. The one that runs alongside the market in front of Pennywise, the new Pennywise. Yeah. The entire road is like bump central. Yeah. Just be going so. It's a whole bumpy ride. I don't care what fantastic suspensions you have. You could be an Audi. You could be a Range Rover. You could be whatever high-class car, Porsche. I don't care. You're going so. Because the road is so damn bumpy.
That road is terrible.
And
But the worst is Tampuna Road, Richard. The worst road in Arima is Tampuna Road.
It's Tampuna Road, yes. It just keeps getting back those major potholes.
Oh, goodness.
So I don't know what is going on with that. The lighting is improved.
Maybe your mayor hasn't driven on Tampuna Road for a while. You don't know.
Well, the smart city version of
You going back there?
I'm going back to the smart city because Arima is the prototype.
It doesn't
So
say
rest
very
of
much
Trinidad and
Arima.
Tobago, be
If
warned
only waited years for
how long
smart.
it takes. Be warned, rest of Trinidad and Tobago, how long it takes. Because Arima is the prototype. And the prototype can't start yet. They can't turn the engine yet. They put up the main center where the computer equipment is supposed to be. You know, I'm always liaising with workers of the Arima Borough Council to find out what's going on. Because they tend to know. And that has been built, but of course there's no information coming. Sometimes I check the Arima, stuff on social media, but they generally just give you obituaries. I think obituaries. Who dead?
But where's your mayor?
I don't mean we are Arima, I don't mean to bong it, but a lot of times it's that. You know, but because there probably is nothing else to talk about.
Arima probably has.
Arima, Paul, don't ask a question like that because I could talk.
Arima probably has the weakest council that they've had for a long, long time. This particular council. That's my opinion.
I wish
But
they
you
would
all
get
said
some of the
when
lights like on
Mr.
Arabita
Maharaj was
Avenue
appointed, you all
to
expected
substitute
great
for those
things.
schools that they have in Arima.
Who expected great things
Like
when
some
Maharaj was appointed?
Many people said so. He was lauded. He's a great businessman. He knows how to get things done.
He is a big businessman in the Arima area.
So what is he? Well, he's new. He's just there like a couple of months. You all give him a chance.
I am so wanting to know what is going on with that smart city and why it says paused that I am going to.
Maybe they're looking for the smarts.
Well, even the MP Penelope Beckles has gone quiet lately, because she was very vibrant on social media last year, but she's gone quiet.
Yeah, but I'm going to
Anybody else
try and get on
papers?
to her and find out what's going on.
I don't, but Steve, maybe we should either get I think we have a guest in next hour, but we should try to get Minister Sinanan or even Dande Piggott, who would have been also part of that conference yesterday, that interview yesterday with the minister, concerning what's happening with our interchanges and that new traffic light system. Because I think it's designed to let the green light flow a better now, so that you don't, because a lot of times you're going on the highway and there's no one at the
north-south lights and the light changes. You understand? The light changes and
the same thing happens by the lighthouse.
Yeah, and brings you to a stop when it's not necessary. I think these lights are now designed so that you can keep flowing. Which is
I think doesn't it have AI in it or something like that? That it's supposed to monitor and when it sees that the flow has slowed in a certain direction, it's going to give more green to the other direction.
Yes.
That sort of thing. It's constantly analyzing the traffic flows.
Yes. And
because especially by the lighthouse, if you're heading westbound, you want to turn into Port of Spain, but by the ferry terminal, they have red light. So for a long time, there are no cars heading east.
Yes.
And you're stuck there. Yeah. And you're just stuck there, nothing coming. They have red light. And I always wonder if, the same thing. When they see these things and let's, get rid of some of the traffic heading west. Because to pass through Port of Spain alone, from the market towards past Hyatt and an extension by the foreshore, by Movie Town Lights here by Anna Street, that could take a long time.
Yeah, they have a lot of stops.
So let me start with the Express. It is Monday, the 18th.
I could do the Guardian. I could do the Guardian for you, Paul.
Thank you, 2024. Let's start with the Express. High-tech eyes on crime. A new camera system is being installed along the country's roadways with the aim of tackling traffic congestion and reducing the country's crime, so says Works and Transport Minister Ragoobarsingh. Prime Minister TNT traumatized, laments gun culture. No entry. Residents of Harp Place in East Port of Spain yesterday placed barricades at all 3 entrances to the apartment complex following the killing of 5 men on Saturday. No devaluation, says Imber. The TNT dollar will not be devalued, says Finance Minister Carl Imber. Magistrate disgusted and angered as cops seize Dashin. An article by Mark Besant as at 17th March, methodical hit on Daniel. In a meticulously thought out and coordinated assassination, Andy Daniel's movements were monitored for weeks before his death through the use of specialized intelligence and surveillance tools. He was shot dead on the Uriah Butler Highway on November 11th, 2023, near the Carney Overpass. His assailants in a black Nissan X-Trail SUV stopped behind him on the shoulder at 1:10 p.m. on that Saturday, got out of the car and pumped several bullets into him and fled the scene. Parry, if I am called, I will lead. It's Mayaro MP Rushton Parry, who's said to be eyeing the leadership of the United National Congress. So those are trending stories in your Express. Richard?
All right, so I can do the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today. And just in case you didn't know the date today, I'm here to tell you that it's Monday, March 18th, 2024. You know, that's always a shout out to my time travelers in case they are confused about where they are. Blocked. That's the headline on the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian today. Harp Place residents erect makeshift barriers. Community fears police will not be able to keep them safe. PM says state will not give up fight. Hines mourns killing of 3 friends. Sub-headlines, SSA guns sent for forensic testing. All of that is on the front page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian this morning. And now I'll just go to the back page, which of course will be sports. Paul Baggs Nations Cup Sprint Bronze. That's the main headline. And of course, that's the TNT cyclist Nicholas Paul I'm talking about. So that's the main headline on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian. And at the side, you have TNT's national 3x3 basketball team comprising brothers Akeem and Akil Boyd, Moriba De Freitas, and Chike Augustin won a bronze medal at the 2023 Pan Am Games in Santiago, Chile. And the thrill of relay competition is like nothing else. And I'm looking forward to watching the world's best in the bid to qualify for the Olympic Games in Paris. So says American track and field icon Carl Lewis, who will be an ambassador for the World Relays in the Bahamas in 2024. So that's it for the front and back of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian.
Before I go to news, let's congratulate Nicholas Paul and Michelle Yai. He got the Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year award over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move to the news. You know, Hines knocked East Port of Spain residents, or knocks East Port of Spain residents, says, where's the outrage against gangs? Criminologists, young hotheads carrying out mass murders. Princestown victims' home, murder victims' home destroyed by fire. Synonym, new traffic light technology will ease traffic. Woman 62 charged after making false rape claims against a cop. UNC property tax unethical, discriminatory, and selectively applied. MSJ make businesses pay property tax first, paying them to host spiritual Shelter Baptist Day celebrations. And Maple Leaf students raises $40,000 for oil spill cleanup. Good for that student. So those are the trending stories in your Express, Guardian, and Newsday for today, Monday, the 18th of March, 2024.
None of the newspapers have Mrs. Prasad Bissessa being blessed by the pastor who was here over the weekend?
They had it yesterday.
They had it yesterday.
Okay. Pastor Rambabu?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think
that was you?
I just had a clip there on the power too.
It blinked by me too?
Yeah, it blinked here too.
All right, give me 1 second, guys.
So it was a nationwide blink?
Seemingly.
Yeah.
Yes. So my question suggestion
is my internet will, because you know I think my internet is rebooting.
Yes, you're still rolling.
Okay.
You're still rolling.
Don't get up, Richard. We don't know what you have on.
No, I am never that badly dressed. I don't want the whole internet and viewership to ball. So no.
Oh,
But just in case of freeze poll, it's a legitimate freeze.
Based on the articles over the weekend, where there is a suggestion of some sort of involvement by the SSA in 3 deaths, my suggested question this morning is: do you think there is a hit squad operating in TNT?
Okay.
Is that okay? Would you like to amend that in any way?
Well, operating within the SSA, because that's where
I don't want to put the SSA.
Okay. All right. In Trinidad and Tobago, well, that will easily be a yes, but because it depends on they have several hit squads. We know that now.
So well, maybe it needs to be that wide.
When you say hit squad, what you mean?
A group of people who are carrying out murders and assassinations.
But are you saying a state-related hit squad?
That's what you had
a state-related hit squad, yes.
You had an array down.
That's what you mean, yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Because there are several hit squads.
A state-related hit squad operating in TNT.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. So that's the question this morning. So it could be any agency, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the question.
We actually have people who
I thought those cameras had AI in them, but I'm not seeing that they do. So let me subtract.
All right. Let's get the results of our morning poll from Friday. Friday, we asked you, do you think local government reform will ever be realized in TNT? And 76% said no. All right. Let's get into this morning's poll. Once again, Paul has it up. 28255. North American morning.
Do you think
52510?
Okay.
9. Go ahead.
Steve, like you had a little AI there.
Yeah. Do you think there's a state-related hit squad operating in Trinidad and Tobago?
Lester Cragwell says yes, and John Cato says no.
And the numbers are?
All right. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. People on the web and the app and all our streaming platforms. You can send your votes via the messaging portals located therein. And of course, you can also WhatsApp us at 868-318-1021. That's 318-1021. Put the 868 code before it, please.
Jaron says yes. Long Islander says yes. Michael Robinson, yes. Boy Bedesi, no. Dave Gosign, yes. Alan Reed.
Also yes. Different Alice's birthday.
Anyhow, Miguel says yes. Lando says yes. Trini B says no to the poll. Well, I know we have John and Lester already. All right.
You said somebody Reese. What did that person Reese say?
Alan Reed says yes.
Okay.
Julie S. Batiste says yes. Do you think there's a state-related hit squad operating in TNT? Yes or no? Val, morning Val, says no. Alistair Hart, no. Richard
Duke, birthday. Happy birthday to you.
I think his birthday was last week.
Okay.
Richard, the cameras do have artificial intelligence algorithms.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I wasn't seeing it in the article, so I was retracting my statement.
Yeah. The real cameraman sent that message.
Ah, boy. Good morning to real cameraman.
You're missing some things there. Quite a bit came in after Julia Batiste.
No, he said Alistair Hardy. Didn't say Richard Duku. Richard Duku says yes. Kenny Harlem says, good morning, gentlemen. I say yes to the poll without any fear. Wayne B says no. Joe Sam says yes. Slick Money Grip says yes. And Ask the Phantom Pastor Jossie Richardson says yes, most definitely.
Captain Ron says yes. All right. Do you think
there is a state-related hit squad operating in Trinidad and Tobago? That's our poll this morning.
Dan Rod says yes. Mrs. R says no. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy Grandy. No.
All righty. Thank you, Grandy.
So 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. People on the web and the app and streaming platforms, you know what to do. Just send your votes via the comment section, even on YouTube itself. And of course, you can also WhatsApp at 318-1021. Put the 868 before it.
Sexy San Fernando says definitely yes.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
If you're just joining us and you didn't hear earlier on, Ashley Abram is supposed to return to Trinidad and Tobago after her wonderful stint at Miss World. At 6 this evening at the Piarco International Airport. If you are so inclined and have the time, please go welcome the young lady home.
Yeah, 6:10 this afternoon. All right, coming from London. It has not taken off as yet.
Gregory Bauer says, good morning, gentlemen. No to the poll. Finbar Collins says, yes, we do. The UNC hits us for 6 every Monday night, but on a for real, is that what he's saying? Mm-hmm. But on a for real, we must have one under the national security framework. DL says, with so many gang leaders still alive, no to the poll. Guy Small says yes.
Yeah. I thought about that, what DL said, in the context of SSA and what they were doing with intelligence over the years, and yet still our problem has grown so bad.
Yeah.
What were they doing?
Miss Bonner West says yes to the poll. Anne-Marie says no. Yvette says yes. CJ New York says yes. Do you think there's a state-related hit squad operating in TNT? Yes or no? WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube.
Let me warn you all in advance.
Were you getting a letter?
Our guest tomorrow will be Philip Alexander.
Yeah, you and Richard will handle him well. I think.
Yeah. I'll be off.
I wouldn't be handling him. Just like you absented yourself for Inshan.
Paul, you're on your own with Philip tomorrow.
Andre says yes. Yeah, you're on your own tomorrow, Val. I'll try and get Minister Rohanson and for Wednesday.
Bring in Rhoda. Let Rhoda come in and interview him to help you with that.
You said Karim Jack? Who is
Carl M. Jack says no.
Did you give that already?
Yeah. Cascade St. Anne's says no.
Let Gary join you as a co-host tomorrow.
I think I'll call Gary tomorrow.
Yeah, let Gary join you as a co-host.
Have a ring down all time tomorrow. I'll have my boxing bell. Ting, 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 round one.
Gary wouldn't back down from coming.
No, he won't. Neither of the two will back down.
No, Philip, I think will. Philip will back down. Gary wouldn't.
No, I don't think Philip will back down.
I don't think Philip will back down. All right, gentlemen, we got to run into our major news. So let's do that right now. Evie, is it?
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Senior police officers called into an emergency meeting following a spike in homicides. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister assures that state agencies will not give up the fight to rid the nation of the widespread gun culture in TNT. And the saga continues as the Strategic Services Agency, as the TTPS, sees several guns from the SSA. Details in a moment. This is News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Santel Bab. Good morning. Senior police officers were called into an emergency meeting yesterday following a spike in homicides throughout the country, which saw 10 people killed in one weekend. 5 people were ambushed and fatally shot on Saturday morning at Hard Place in Port of Spain. Among the victims was Police Sergeant Larry Phillip. Phillip, 51, was attached to the TNT Police Service police band. The other victims were Rudolph James, 32-year-old Ranji Graves, 49-year-old Peter Norrie, 42-year-old Devon Jack. 3 other people were also injured when gunmen opened fire. Last Saturday afternoon, 1 man was fatally shot at the Shogunas Market. On Friday night, 30-year-old Anil Maharaj was fatally shot while walking near his home in Derby. And 33-year-old Paul Kirk was shot dead along Sumsum Hill, Claxton Bay, while Kester McAllister, an outpatient of the St. Anne Psychiatric Hospital, was shot dead in Mova. On Thursday morning, the bullet-riddled body of 43-year-old Indar Boris was found on a riverbank near his home at KP Lands, Valencia. The TTPS Senior Superintendent Hari Prasad Ramnarayan assured the public that all was being done to apprehend suspects.
All available resources within the Port of Spain Division and by extension the entire TTPS will be utilized to apprehend these culprits and bring them before a competent authority. It is even more difficult to digest when one of our fellow police officers is a victim of this heinous act. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my deepest condolences to all the families of the victims and to give the assurance that all resources are being expended to ensure that the perpetrators are brought before a court of law. I am appealing to the citizenry of this beloved Trinidad and Tobago, please stop this senseless killing. I am also appealing to the members of the public, if you have any information that can assist the TTPS, please share it with us. It will be greatly appreciated.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley also gave an assurance to the population that the state agencies will not give up the fight to rid the nation of the widespread gun culture in TNT. The Prime Minister's statement, which came through the office of the Prime Minister's Facebook page on Saturday evening, was in response to the deadly shooting at Hard Place in East Port of Spain. Dr. Rowley said the incident, in which 5 people lost their lives at one location and where 3 others were killed elsewhere, brings home the depth of the problem that the government is grappling with. He said that this ever-increasing total wanton disregard for human life is to be condemned in the soundest of ways, and extended his condolences to the families of those who were killed. The Prime Minister also said that he wanted to give his assurance to the nation that even as they experienced Saturday's tragedy, the state, through its lawful activities, would continue to identify and extract the weapons and their criminal owners and operators. Also, National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines has asked if the country will use the madness which occurred at Hard Place as a call for determined action, or if it will be business as usual. In a post to his Facebook page yesterday morning, Hines described the killings of 5 people in East Port of Spain as a murderous explosion of deadly violence that shocked and traumatized everyone. As he offered condolences to the loved ones of those affected by the violence, the National Security Minister said he knew 3 of the victims. The saga continues at the country's top intelligence gathering agency, the Strategic Services Agency, as the TNT Police Service has seized several guns from the SSA. The guns are expected to undergo forensic testing to see whether or not they were used in any murders now being linked to the agency. Sources have indicated that the SSA, whose primary role is intelligence gathering, is now being linked to 3 murders: the 2019 murders of Brian Felix and Aleem Khan, whose bodies were found in a forested part of Komuto on October 13th, and CCTV camera contractor Andy Daniel. Daniel was shot and killed while parked on the northbound lane of the Uriah Butler Highway around midday on November 11th, 2023. On March 2nd, Director Major Roger Best was sent on administrative leave, and retired Brigadier General Anthony Philip Spencer was appointed acting director. Days before Best was sent on leave, the special branch reportedly requested information from the Homicide Bureau of Investigations about the double murder. It was Daniel, who was the husband of Joanne Daniel, the Deputy Director of Intelligence of the SSA, whose murder alerted the TTPS that there was some questionable occurrences in the organization, according to intelligence sources. A new camera system is being installed along the country's roadways with the aim of tackling traffic congestion and reducing the country's crime rate. This was revealed yesterday by the Minister of Works and Transport, Rohan Sinanan, who spoke with the media at the intersection of the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway and Golden Grove Road in Piarco. At the time, he was revealing the workings and reasoning behind the installation of new 360-degree video detection cameras, which are going to be placed along major traffic intersections across the country. He said that the new cameras, which are above ground, will help to manage the traffic flows in the country. The cameras, he said, are 360 degrees, so it can see traffic from all directions and can aid with the changing of the lights, and traffic signals that can be synchronized. He also said that 7 such systems have been installed along the east-west corridor between Diego Martin and Piarco, and 1 system installed near Gulf City in South Trinidad, and he noted that each unit had an average cost of about $200,000. He also noted that the maintenance of the new system would be about 20% of what the ministry had previously had for the below-ground system. While the minister didn't go into details about how the ministry was working with law enforcement or what access they would have, he said that he believed that the system would aid with the safety of citizens of the country. The homecoming ceremony for Trinidad and Tobago representative and new crowned Miss World Caribbean, Miss Ashe Abrahams, will take place on Monday, 18th March 2024. That is today at 6 p.m. at the Piarco International Airport. Miss Abrahams placed in the top 4 of the Miss World pageant, which was held on Saturday, 9th March 2024 in Mumbai, India. Her placing was evidenced by her top ranking in the head-to-head challenge, speaking on topics related to sustainable development, her many passionate interviews with the judges, exceptional singing abilities as part of the talent segment, her graceful stage presence and outstanding responses during the final pageant, and a placement within the top 10 of the Beauty with a Purpose with her Invisible Scars project. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. The United Nations Children's Agency says one of its aid containers at Haiti's main port, stocked with essential items for maternal, neonatal, and child survival, was looted as gangs increasingly control the capital. Haiti is struggling to resolve a long-running political and humanitarian crisis that the Children's Agency UNICEF has warned is causing record hunger and life-threatening malnutrition in parts of the capital, Port-au-Prince. UNICEF said one of its 17 containers had been looted at the Port-au-Prince port, where it said 260 humanitarian-owned containers were controlled by armed groups. Russian President Vladimir Putin has thanked Russians for putting their trust in him as he celebrated his inevitable election win. Mr. Putin received applause and cheers from supporters as he claimed victory and a 5th term in power. Vladimir Putin won a 5th term as a Russian president by a landslide of 87%, according to Russian exit polls. The head of Russia's Electoral Commission says that the turnout in election over the weekend was 77.44%, a record in a post-Soviet era. He faced no credible opposition candidates, as the Kremlin tightly controls Russia's political system, media, and elections. Germany called it a pseudo-election, while the U.S. said the vote was obviously not free nor fair. Ukraine's President Zelensky said Putin was sick for power and is doing everything to rule forever. Finally, here's weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, predominantly sunny, slightly hazy and breezy at times, despite the low chance of a brisk shower. Mostly fair night with a light breeze. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 32 degrees Celsius, both at Piarco International Airport and Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 28 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 27 at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock. Senior police officers called into an emergency meeting following a spike in homicides. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister assures that state agencies will not give up the fight to rid the nation of the widespread gun culture in TNT, and the saga continues at the Strategic Services Agency as the TTPS seizes several guns from the SSA. I'm Avril Sentil-Bab. That was News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All righty. Thank you so much, Avro, for our major news. You could join her again. Come at 8 o'clock for our news brief. All right. Quickly, let's see what's happening on the highways and on the byways. South Trinidad had some rain this morning. If you're heading northbound, you got traffic from Gasparilla. Heading northbound, there's a truck in a ditch by Indian Walk. Also had some heavy rain. And then you're going to pick up your traffic heavier from just after Chagonas heading towards Interchange and into town. Chin Chin Road to Ibis Gardens, you've got it. PR Code to Orange Grove, and then from there from UE, this volume, Eastern Main Road, usual spots heavy. Diego Martin, Maraval, you've got it. All right? That's the traffic update for you at this time.
Yeah, 3 more people saying no.
Now we're going to check here.
Mm-hmm. At least on the YouTube, Anthony Miguel said no. Wayne Joseph said no. Sorry. And Beauty Culture also said no. I don't know if you have any on WhatsApp.
No. Nothing new. Put it
I'll
on.
wait on Richard to confirm the count. But whilst I'm waiting on Richard, let us express condolences to the family of former Mayor of Arima, current Member of Parliament for Dabadi Umera, Minister in the Ministry of Education, Lisa Morris Julian, and the passing of her father over the weekend.
Oh, geez.
His father passed away over the weekend, so condolences to Lisa Morris Julian and the Morris family. I think his name was Peter Morris.
I heard that.
Yeah.
But with regard to the poll, I will. Do you think there is a state-related hit squad operating in Trinidad and Tobago? I have 36 people voting on the poll, Wendell.
I have a little more than that.
I have 36. I have 23 saying yes and 13 saying no.
13? I have 21 saying yes and 18 saying no. I have 39 people.
Okay, maybe I missed some.
Yeah, because they were coming in. So we now had another no from Adrian Kotu. But I have, well, that would make it 19 saying no.
I don't think there's a death squad operating. I think there are people who go rogue for their own purposes.
Well, that's called a squad, eh?
Well, no, they may not be operating as a squad, but they come together to do evil things when they feel so inclined to act illegally for whatever reason.
I always remember this movie. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was a movie with judges. Judges would come together and decide when a criminal goes free in their court. They had a little group of judges, and they hired a hitman to go out and get rid of the person, because the person would have been able to go free in their court because of the defense. And the judges decided, well, no, that person was guilty, and they would send out a
Very stressed. This is a movie he's talking about.
It's a movie. It is a movie.
It wouldn't matter with the impression that you're talking about. Good morning, Mr. Brown. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm
not bad at all. How are you? You're good to go?
What he's talking about is a Ludlam movie. It's a Ludlam book. And the movie
Robert Ludlam.
Yes, and it's called Chancellor Papers.
Yes. Very good movie.
My dear. How are you? Good to see you, Mr. Brown. I haven't seen you for a while.
Oh, I'm all right. I'm fine. And yourself? How are things?
I am looking on and smiling and giving God thanks and praise for life.
I thought you were doing a lot more than that.
I am sometimes.
He is.
I am sometimes.
Morning, Mariana.
We're glad to have you on this morning. There are a lot of financial and economic issues that we'd like to discuss with you. Starting with most recently, what do you make of the sudden, unexpected to me, suspension of property tax and subsequent reduction from 3 to 2% of residential rental value?
Well, there are lots of things that could have gone wrong, but to me, what it looked like, first of all, valuing 400 hereditaments from scratch was always going to be a problem, right? Because you'll have to ask the question, how strong is the valuation division, and when last did the valuation division carry out an exercise of that nature? Given the fact that a couple of people that they'll be depending upon were retirees. One leader from the exercise, from the early parts of the exercise, was very versed in that exercise, that passed on. So what was the repository of information, knowledge? How many people were involved in it? That's the first question. The second question, as you notice, if any of you all received your notices of assessment, there was not just a notice of assessment, full stop. You could agree, you could disagree. That's your business. There's nothing that told you how they arrived at the assessment, what they took into consideration, or anything like that. In fact, nothing has been disclosed apart from the fact about annual rentable value. Right? So there are lots of comparisons or questions that could be asked. For example, how is the annual rentable value in my area compare with the annual rentable value in a particular area? How does Westmoreland compare with Victoria Gardens, compare with Bayshore or Shorelands for that matter? Right? How do annual rentable values in different parts of Diego Martin compare, and across the country, comparable bases? So there are lots that people could object to. The point is, on what basis were you going to object? You object to the number. Well, you have to object to the number, and you don't necessarily have to give a reason. But the point is, the process wasn't particularly transparent. When the minister spoke, he didn't say how many notices of assessment had been sent out. We presume all. Right, but I think that would be a mistake. I never got a notice of assessment, for example, but I did get an assessment notice. Right. In other words, I didn't get a valuation, but I got an assessment notice telling me what tax I had to pay and what the rentable value was. And I noted that the rentable value of my property was higher than certain other areas where I compared them with, right, where the actual rents were concerned. So that how did you arrive at it? Right, so I would have had an objection if it had come to me from that perspective. So there are lots of questions that were asked, and I think that they also got a lot of objections. Right? Anybody who got an assessment notice who had time, file the objection. And you notice that the Prime Minister went in public and said, it was only those people with houses in foreign, that were objecting, and then it was reflected in the minister's comments, where he said that only those in the upper brackets were the ones who were complaining. Really? Well, I don't have, that's anecdotal. Tell me how many are sent out, how many people objected, and so on and so forth. All of those things were missing. There was no data. In the same way that you got an assessment notice, it was just a line. Your assessment is, your annual rental value is. Well, how you arrive at it? What was it? Those are the kinds of questions that people would have, especially if you're doing something new. You're doing it for the first time, so that people would want to know, well, give me a comparison of how you did that. Did you check it out? Did we go to professional valuators? Did we ask the valuators to do some comparison in terms of rents? How does Trinidad City compare with Diego Martin, right? Or similar issues, or one particular area compare with another area? Those are kind of the questions that people would want to know and would want to ask, and I think they're valid questions to ask. The minister gave no clue, gave no information. This is your assessment. Take it or leave it. Right? And that's what you got. And I think you
have an opportunity to challenge if you want, but I agree with you that not only
that opportunity to challenge is no challenge. I mean, you could file a notice, but we're going to take you on. I mean, this is inland revenue. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah. There were several people, and I agree with you that not only people of the higher echelons had issues, because people were citing
people had issues all over. Everybody had an issue
with theirs versus their neighbors, the same size house, the same number of bedrooms, etc. and there was no explanation given as to why there were these inconsistencies with properties that seemingly have the same value.
So the minister's way of solving that issue is that he hasn't dealt with the substance of the queries, or the issue of comparators, or demonstrating, for example, why the valuation done by the ministry was good or useful and compared well with private sector valuation, or in fact compared with market rents, which is another issue, right? We're talking about a situation. At one stage, on one hand, the IMF report is saying we're projecting growth. Well, the property market is depressed. So which valuation are you using, and what annual rent you're talking about? The rents are changing and the rents are falling, right? That's the real issue. Not that people object.
But moving from 3 to 2% does not address the issues you've identified, and many people have.
But that's the point I'm making. I'm saying that and that's one of the reasons why the rate was slashed in that particular fashion, right? I take off 30%. It's a 30% discount, right? And on that basis, that should cover everything. It doesn't answer the queries. I didn't say it did. I'm simply saying that it's a rule of thumb that he used to simply quash the queries which people had. That's what I'm saying.
Is there a political component to it, though, in terms of the election in 2025?
Well, of course, there's a political component. If you read the IMF report is basically saying in paragraphs 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're really predicting growth on the basis of fiscal adjustment, right? And that all the taxes, the gambling tax, the property tax, right, XYZ tax that are going to be brought in, and they also suggest that the tax in the energy sector should be streamlined, right? So in other words, the projection of growth has to do with government becoming more, if you want, the word would not be mature, responsible, in terms of its method of financing, and that they ought not to do not to have continuous deficits, right? And the way they found the situation reasonably imbalanced between paying attention to communities which were at risk or depressed in terms of the balance of spend. But it then went on to say that more attention needed to be paid to the state enterprises and the fiscal position with regard to the state enterprises, etc., etc. So the bottom line, right, is that the report projects, one, it assumes that government is going to be far more responsible in terms of how it manages its money. It's going to pay attention to state enterprises. It's going to be more efficient, and it's going to raise taxes.
But every decision a government makes in power is political, is with an end to satisfying staying in power at some level. To me, the question that we bring from 3 to 2% will reduce the overall amount people have to pay. But as you said before, it doesn't answer the questions as to whether the anomalies in the evaluation that people have. And also, what it has done, in effect, is bring the property tax issue back in the forefront.
Well, the property tax issue was always going to come in the forefront when you had to pay it. So you can't get away from that. And by the way, let me start off by saying I'm one of those who agree with property tax. And I would have been the person who would have led the debate in the upper house, certainly with regard to the implementation of tax in 2009. Right? Mr. Manning always said, and he said, you're pushing this thing and you all want to go ahead with it. Right? But what you're going to do is that it's going to become an election issue. It turns out that the property tax was an election issue. It wasn't a major election issue. And it has been postponed for 15 years. Yeah. Right? So 15 years is more than enough time to plan to get your act in order. And even if you presume 2 administrations, I mean, you've had 9 years. So if you came into office, and by the way, PNM came into office on what you call it, saying that there was going to be no property tax. I don't know if you remember that. Right? And then subsequently changed tune to say that there would be property tax. Right? So
PNM, which PNM is that, Mr. Brown?
Your PNM, my PNM, same PNM. There's only one PNM.
Said that they said that there'll be no property tax.
Listen to what you call it. There was a question and there's a video clip on it. If you would like me to get it and send it,
I would love for you to send it to me.
Right, and it was with regard to when the question was asked. Mr. Dr. Rowley was on stage, as was Mr. Imbert, right? And the question was asked, and Mr. Dr. Rowley says, "I will answer that," quote and unquote. So let me get something. Let's get something clear here. As I said to you very clearly, I am a person, I support the property tax. So let's just get that clear. I'm not against property tax.
No, you've always maintained that. You've always, but you also said something just now that I've never heard before. That Mr. Manning had alerted that it would become an election issue, and he was concerned about its implementation at the time. Is that what I picked up?
Of course he was.
I've never heard that before.
He didn't disagree with it. He was in private chambers. He didn't see that on no platform. He never said that on a platform. He's talking to the people who pushing property tax, and I would be one of them.
Right.
All right. And he spoke to, there's any finance committee meeting. He says, this is an election issue. This is going to cause me a lot of grief. Right. But I understand the point that you're making. And he understood that it had to be done, and he understood why. So let's get something clear.
Okay. Right? I've never heard that before.
Well, you may not have heard it before, and I could tell you that is in fact he supported property tax. He understood the political consequences of doing it, right? And he was prepared to take the risk of doing it. Because remember, at that time, Point Forte and San Fernando were paying property tax on a basis which was pretty close to the basis that we have now, right? And those were done as experiments which came out of 2000, 2002, somewhere thereabouts. And certainly in the case of Point Forte and in the case of San Fernando, I think there's a third other place where it had been being rolled out. That the basis of property tax had changed and the rates had changed. So we ended up with a situation which was anomalous. We had some districts were paying higher taxes than other ones, or some, if you want, boroughs were paying higher taxes than the other ones. And quite frankly, it didn't make sense. The idea was that they were being rolled out as tests, so that we'll see how the market would respond to the changes and variation. And once we understood that the markets pay the tax without too much complaint, then we'd roll it out across the board, 100%. And that was the purpose behind the Property Tax Act. Right now, remember, Trinidad has been trying to change the basis of property taxes in 1965. To pass the 2009 amendment and the 2009 Act, we had to repeal a whole set of acts that went back to 1965, 1971, which were never implemented, partly because of 1970.
Yeah. You did explain that, because I think I would have asked you previously, why couldn't we continue with what we had whilst we implemented what we wanted? But you did say that it had to be repealed first before you move forward.
Yeah. You have to have a consistent basis. You can't do a little piece here and a little piece there. You have to do it consistently. But the point is, and this is the point, we had enough time to prepare. We had enough time to use data, right? And the point is that we're going to use up-to-date valuations. So it was always a question, if you're using the up-to-date valuations, it's always going to be a big kick between what was being paid on land and building taxes. The last change to the Act with regard to land and building taxes was done under the NER. And that was to raise it from, I can't remember whatever rate, to $10 per acre or part thereof. Right? So it was a substantial increase, but no real increase in terms of the amount of money that you're going to collect. Now, I don't think that the volume of money that we're going to collect is $500 million. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be a lot larger than that. But the reality is that has to change. And even if it were $500 million, what's the budget for local government and the amount of money that we spend on local government?
But I saw comment over the weekend that said two things. One, that it's gone down from 3% to 2% now. There's nothing stopping any government or the government, because the UNC has said they're staunchly against it if they are elected. You pay them from saying after election to bring it back up to 3% and move to 4%. That's one. And two, property tax, residential collection of property tax has been linked directly to local government bodies and how they are intended to evolve.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that statement is not a full statement either. Some parts of the property tax is going to be related to local government bodies, not all. All right, so let's start off on that basis. And why some? If you're going to do it all, all right, and put some clear guidance in terms of what has to happen and how it's going to work. Right, central government must make certain that those things work. Quite frankly, the fundamental issue with regard to local government is that, I mean, we have several different overlaps. We have, in terms of what local government is responsible for, and as well as what some of the what you call it, make work plans are responsible for. So you have CPEP, and you have what you call it, and URP operating in similar areas, doing similar things. right? And then you have local government on top of that. And are they ever coordinated? I mean, those are that's we're talking about in terms of how much money we talking about in terms of expenditure there. About
my concern is
$1.5 billion.
You're absolutely right. But the concern is if we have all these challenges seemingly in getting the property tax residential correct and on the ground and rolling and collecting what it's supposed to collect in terms of the local government bodies, are the local government bodies also ready to collect, because they're supposed to be doing, I asked the question already, correct collection themselves and held accountable for the use of that money in the interest of the Burgesses? So I don't see all the ducks falling into a row for accountability and transparency.
Well, they're not. They were not in a row. I mean, you have to have made some changes to make that happen, right? In terms of the accounting for local government bodies, right? In terms of how the local government bodies run their operations. I mean, basic facts, right? The government of Trinidad and Tobago puts down a property development in the Tunapuna area. It puts down one in the San Fernando area, right? And people are, we go to what people go to buy, right? The fundamental questions are the basic approvals in position, right? Government to government dealing with local government, but you have the water approvals or healthcare approvals and all that kind of stuff still in abeyance or have not been done. I mean, one cannot run a country on that basis and be serious about it. Right? You have to have certain things. If there are procedures which are meant to have happen, then you have to have the number of people at the local government bodies who will approve it, and systems which are meant to be positioned, which will happen, and not that the systems aren't taking place. And the implication is, if it do happen, you want to get it happen a little faster, you have to pay me extra money to be able to do that. Really, which is really what it all boils down to.
But let me ask a question. It's like a no-brainer. Are these
to be improved?
And is maybe a misnomer question? Are these the government's, the cabinet's issues, or public service issues, or both?
It doesn't matter who the hell is responsible for running the country.
But you understand?
But the local government responsible for running the country.
No,
government is responsible for making certain those things are done right. Nobody else could reform the public service but government. So that's a government responsibility, and you have to take it to Parliament. Right, government, Parliament, however you want to call it. The moral of the story is that nobody ever looks to Parliament from that point of view. They look to cabinet and look to ministers. Let's get that clear, right? Now, of course, ministers are circumscribed on the basis of the constitutional power. They'll be able to move forward. But the reality is that is what the country needs, right? So you have to find a way to get it done, not talk rubbish.
So is it poor governance then?
Let me ask this question. As an extension of what Paul asked concerning local government reform. How hopeful you are now then of this local government reform?
I'm not hopeful for anything. What you call it? What is Hebrews chapter 11? What? Faith is the substance of things to hope for, the evidence of things unseen. Well, I mean, how long are we talking about local government reform? Local government reform was a major item on the agenda in 2008, 2009. Right? I was sitting on a committee, we were reviewing X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z was supposed to take place. Right? We are in 2024. That's 15 years ago.
Yes.
That's 15 years ago. Right? No real change has taken place. Right? And we are talking not only about local government. I mean, it's a practical example I gave you, right? That
so we're on the same page. We're on the same page.
X number of what you call it. Yeah. X number of housing developments, and the basic approvals not in position. I mean, how is that possible?
Yeah, we're on the same page with local government, except I could go back a little further because I.
All right. So it don't matter. No matter how much back you go. The reality is this. This is the point I'm going to make. Right? We take 40 years to do things. Right? Mm-hmm. Property tax was in 1965. Right? 65. That's when we did a whole series of things. We have passed a whole series of acts between 1965 and 1971. Right? We don't really make any kind of real adjustment until 1990. Right? And then we next come around to deal with it. We are implementing it in 2009 with all different kinds of weaknesses. The point is, it's been implemented. So from a practical perspective, if I'm in favor of a project, it's been implemented. I would have liked it to be implemented a lot better for reasons I've already suggested.
When I hear quote Bible just now, it says is the other Pastor Brown,
Wrong Pastor Brown. Right? I'm not a pastor at all. Right? Cromwell, when he ran England, right, didn't run it as a king, Didn't run it as we run it as a quasi dictator, right? But when it was run, things were fixed, things were done.
So it's clearly poor governance issues in getting these things done, planning them out and executing them, which is a age-old problem in this country. Big plans, poor execution.
Well, yes, and poor execution is a function of planning and organization. Now, don't get me wrong. There will always be issues that will go wrong, right? There will be, and you will expect that. You will expect that there will be some level of disaffection that will take place, but you also have to be, and you have to expect it. It's not unusual. It's not unusual for people to ask queries, but you have to be in a position to answer them. The way the processes works out, well, you could ask a query. In other words, well, ask a query if you want number. We ain't taking you on, right? What was the transparency in that? What's the benefit in that?
Interesting. Right? You're talking about a lot of issues related to institutions not operating effectively. What are your thoughts on the recent SSA debacle?
I mean, we haven't heard the real issues on that, and the fundamental issue with that, I think the Guardian editorial yesterday dealt with it. The issue of oversight mechanisms. Right? You don't put in oversight mechanisms, forget about them. By the way, General Pretorius, right, was head of a security agency. He was removed. Major General White, or whatever his name was also removed. One for credit card fraud, one for having an affair, XYZ, and so on. You will find situations in which people make mistakes. People will make mistakes. Right?
That's not what the office of the Prime Minister suggested. They suggested it was a threat to national security.
Well, I mean,
they didn't say it was a mistake, you know.
A state of, well, I don't know what it is.
National security is a very serious thing.
I don't, and in terms of some of the comments which were made by Pastor Brown, I did hear elements of what you call elements of a threat to national security. If somebody is saying that the best people to run the country should be this or they should be that,
righteous
people, members in the military, you are setting out on a plan to basically suborn the Constitution. That's what I heard. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with that statement, right? But there are other things that have come out, and I'm saying, right, even that would happen. There are situations in which, take for example the Crown. The Crown alleges, the movie, the serial. The Crown alleges that when a Labour government was coming into power, there was a consideration on the part of certain businesses and right-wing conservatives to consider whether it was possible to have a coup, to the extent to which they had sought Mountbatten's advice. And he said that couldn't possibly happen. Now, this isn't to say that people wouldn't think that way. Of course, people will think that way, right? But the affairs of state and the institutions of state must function in a way that deals with it, right? Let's get that clear. So I'm not averse to whatever. The point is, people will make mistakes.
Right? All right, people will make mistakes.
Here's the point I'm making. What are the oversight mechanisms? How do those oversight mechanisms operate? Right? It's clear, for example, at this stage of the game, that the effort to change the positioning of the police commissioner, right, has raised a number of issues which says that it isn't working. Right? And if it isn't working, then we have to sit down and we have to put something on the table and say, okay, this is what we propose to do and make an amendment. Let's talk about it. There's nothing like that coming forward. I hear a series of statements out of the minister, but it's not his responsibility. It's not his responsibility to do X. It's not his responsibility to do Y. It is your responsibility when you recognize there's a problem to address it.
But you said people make mistakes, and that is absolutely incontrovertible. But when people are making mistakes, depending on the breadth of the mistake, and you said you agree based on what Pastor Brown had been saying as somebody who admitted to being involved in the SSA at one level or another, that there's a threat to national security. And this is an agency charged with responsibility for gathering intelligence to feed the police service and other law enforcement agencies to make decisions to fight crime in our environment. It's not as simple as somebody making a mistake and looking at the oversight mechanisms.
Suggested that all mistakes were errors. There are errors of commission and there are errors of omission. An error of commission is an attempt to use existing processes to subvert a process. That is also one would consider to be an error, a grave one. And I'm saying that the oversight mechanisms should have been in position to be able to address those errors and certain directions. Those things happen too.
My point is that what are the implications of that on the information that had been gathered by this agency and the impact on general national security and crime fighting in the country? That is the potential issue I'm looking at.
Well, the 1995 Act is clear. We have a whole set of institutions. By the way, most of the legislative agendas that have been followed over the last 24 years have not come from any internal requirement of the Trinidad and Tobago public. Most times they're reaction to, right? I wouldn't call them demands of FATF on the international circle, the Proceeds of Crime Act, the FIU, the X, Y, and Z, whatever else, and so on, and all the variations that have come therefrom, have been to meet a guideline and a standard which has been set by an international body, essentially to capture terrorists. SSA has two purposes, one of which is internal, and the other one which is external, to meet some of those requirements as well. So I take your point that it is important, and I take your point that it's important in terms of the fabric. But the instrumentality, how are those instructions passed down? How is that information passed on to the police to make certain they do something about it? How is the interagency arrangements sorted out to make certain that works?
Again, oversight, proper oversight, and coordination by the line ministry.
And I leave it. I don't so certain if it's a ministry that's going to require, but certainly some people within the ministry will be required to help us. Now, Wendell started off by reference to a movie. Right? There are several, if you want, series which address the issue of national security, either in England or in the USA. And all of them would indicate that there are interpersonal issues which come up from time to time. Right? And it's difficult in terms of how you manage it. Right? That in a sense is what Ludlam was talking about. That at any stage of the game, there are always possibilities for the agencies of state to be suborned. And then one has to guard carelessly about it. That's the essence of Ludlam's writing. He was not the only one who dealt with that. I forget his name now, but he's what you call Hunt for Red October, the author of the Hunt for Red October. That's a point that he makes in his work as well.
Yeah.
It casts quite a shadow over the whole specter of national security, especially in the context of what we're experiencing now. 10 murders in one weekend and the inability seemingly of the TTPS and other law enforcement agencies to make real progress.
We are looking at, you see, the point is, we've always had gangs. Right? They had different names and they probably operated with cruder instruments in the 60s and 70s. And that's one of the reasons why the Steel Band Association was formed and Panorama was formed, right, in a sense to channel energies into a particular area. Right? So these steel bands were meant to be community interests. And that's how Dr. Williams got businesses to support them and to help them out and so on. It was to address some of those issues. Right? That's how special works and stuff started off too. But what happens is that, like everything else, some of these things may start with good intentions that can become rotten along the line. Now, the point is that you have to police some of those things. I ran URP for 1 year, in the last year, the year before the general election. And there were certain things that came to my attention, which I had to deal with. And there are certain other things which I did not have the time to deal with, right, that were clearly upsetting to me. And I have to say, if ever I had to do it, I mean, I'd deal with it directly, right? But there are points which have to be dealt with. And it's always possible, given the nature of human relationships, that some people look for a way to get an advantage. Now, what we're looking at, the level of crime that we're looking at, raises about 3 or 4 different types of issues. Whether there is consolidation taking place. We talk about taxation and extortion and that kind of stuff. Well, it appears, given the fact that a number of police were arrested or alternatively in Sandy Grande, I'm certain exactly how that one, that case of some or the other disappeared, that was an extortion racket within a certain aspect of the police service, right? And we have, anyhow, let me not deal with the specifics. Right? There are things which have to be done to keep all our armed services in proper order. Those are meant to be disciplined, uniformed areas, and that there's a certain element in terms of order that is required in those issues, right? In terms of disciplinary procedures, and that's why I make the point whether the 2006 adjustments in terms of the implementation of a commissioner of police was well done, and whether the police has the necessary internal requirements to be able to handle their own disciplinary stories. Right? There are things arrangements which have to be made and have to be made appropriately.
Yeah, but the issue of the oversight of like who's watching the guards, I guess, is the best.
Yes, who guard the guards?
Who's watching the guards? And of course, the Prime Minister recently had said that he wanted to form a new unit that would look at all arms of the national security infrastructure and be like a unit that monitors corruption, kind of like a more extensive PSB, I guess.
Yeah, so a vetted unit, you call it, huh?
A vetting unit.
A vetting unit. Well, if I'm not mistaken, we're supposed to vet in terms of who we hire. There's a vetting process for that. That's one of the reasons why they publish pictures of recruits in the police, because they're asking the public to give us information as to whether this person will be hired. The fact that that's being done says that the internal process was a little weak itself, so they decided to go to the public, right? I think Wendell, your brother-in-law, right, explained that to me at the time. So I'll leave it there, right? But in something like SSA, that is a process of continuous vetting.
Yeah,
continuous vetting. Right? As they did in SORT with lie detector tests, checking your finances and everything else that is required. Those are things which have to be put in position. Now, do I have to put another agency in position? Do I have to make certain that the existing agencies are properly tasked and properly managed and properly run and have the right people in it?
Which is why, Mariano, when you reference the changes that was made for the Commissioner of Police, as far as I remember, under then Martin Joseph, was given extensive powers to hire and fire.
Yes.
And it has never been used, really.
And the point about the extensive powers about hiring and firing also means that your internal processes have to be sufficiently well organized to be able to get to that particular point.
Yeah.
Now, do I give you the extensive powers before I've done the internal organization? Or do I make the internal organization strong and then give you the powers? Which one comes first?
Yeah.
Did we do it in that order? And that's the problem with institutional change. It's easy to criticize. And don't get me wrong, it's easy to criticize. But the point is that there are certain things which you have to ensure exist in advance before you devolve.
Yes.
So devolving authority also means to make certain that the instruments, the administrative systems are sufficiently robust to facilitate it. The ludicrous implication is that a constable is carrying a commissioner to court, right? Because he get transferred and he wasn't given a reason.
Yeah.
That's right. We're talking about a disciplined service, right?
Yes.
Right. Now you want to tell me that making sense to you?
It can't make sense because the commissioner won't be able to do his or her job.
But exactly. That's precisely.
But that is where it is now in this country. Everybody go to court and challenge everything in an institution that's supposed to be built on discipline and order.
Yes. Right. So I mean, there are many things which have to be addressed. I mean,
as a lawyer, you have a right to go to court.
Well, of course, you have a right to go to court. You have a right to go to court for something sensible, not for telling me that because
what's sensible for other people. What's sensible for you might not be sensible for somebody else. You're bold.
Hang on a second. When you hire somebody, you hire them to do this and any other duty, right? So that gives me rights and gives me responsibilities. I'm telling you, I'm moving you from point A to B because I need to have something else done there, right? You're asking for an explanation, right? What about the exigencies of the service? We're talking about a police service here.
and the management of the resources, including the human resource. Before we end, I want your thoughts on the last Friday, I think it was the bill to raise the borrowing limit again domestically by the Minister of Finance, and your thoughts on that.
Well, well, the more of the story is raising the borrowing limit because we need to borrow more, right? And that's it. That's the reality, right? And the IMF, for example, said that the surplus was, the deficit was broadly in line with the budget at 1.1%. It was out of trend too, because the budget deficits have tended to be above 3%. She said, but in the short run, there would be problems, and that it would go this year to 2.45%. In other words, it would double. It would double. The reality, the deficit is going to double. I rather suspect that the deficit is going to remain high, because I mean, even if we put XYZ tax in position and so on, right? You can't. There's a limit to increasing taxation. The real target is to increase the pie. You have to increase economic growth. And even if you have 2% economic growth, what's the real rate of growth that Trinidad requires to move from point A to B and to be able to handle deficits and to be able to handle a number of other things? All right. So 2.4% is not enough. So I just put that on the table. So that borrowing, yes, okay, the government will borrow, but there are certain things that have to be addressed in certain areas of expenditure which you shouldn't be spending money on anymore.
But in that context, and borrowing either locally or domestically, the Minister of Finance took quite a bit of time on Friday to explain that the interest rates borrowing locally was much more favorable than borrowing internationally, and that's part of the reason they were looking to raise the borrowing ceiling locally. What are your thoughts in principle on borrowing? And the reason for borrowing? I didn't see the whole debate, so I can't say that I know that he didn't articulate that. But in the context of whether borrowing is done for productive investment in revenue-generating exercises, or if borrowing domestically or internationally is to pay bills, etc., which may be not unproductive.
Ideal to always want it for productive endeavors.
But, yeah, but I didn't get a reason.
But that's,
Thank you.
That's always.
Thank you.
Here's
the problem. All right. Now, governments are important, and governments are important in a sense because they have changed direction. All right. Were it not for the government, we wouldn't have had a Point Lisas, and we probably wouldn't have had Atlantic LNG. All right, because somebody had to take on the responsibility. That's part of the reason for NGC, NEC, and so on. They were very important catalysts, right? And the reality was that the petrochemical sector would not have undertaken the functional investments to basically make all of those things work. So government had to do it. So government did it. Yes, that's important. But the point is that at the end of the day, the private sector also has to do its work. Right? And the private sector has to move forward. The best example of a private sector organization picking up the responsibility would have been, of course, Clico's investment in the methanol sector and their movement onwards in joint venture with Proman. Right? Well, we wouldn't bother to go into that at that stage of the game because that's like a wasted opportunity at this stage. So the reality is that it can be done. All right? So that government has to take a lead in certain areas, but also the private sector has to step up to do some other things. That's also
what to do. I just wanted to touch on something, Mariano.
By the way, the other problem with regard to borrowing and borrowing locally, and the IMF in its report did indicate that if your interest rate is lower than the international interest rate, right, what you will get is a tendency for capital flight. That they also said that. So whilst it may be conducive to borrowing more locally, because the rate is less, right? The IMF is also suggesting that that's not necessarily the way to go. I just leave that as a pointer on the table.
Yeah. The president of BP in Trinidad and Tobago, Sir David Campbell, recently indicated that BP is interested in exploring natural gas together with Trinidad and Tobago of Venezuelan waters. I don't know what you think of that and how much traction you think that's going to have in terms of developing further.
Well, we have a problem, and the problem is this, right? Nobody is prepared to drill in deeper waters at this stage of the game. The prices are not right. The fiscal incentives are not right. They aren't going to do it. But at the same token, by the way, BP and Shell supplied their gas to their LNG facility All right, let's understand that. And who are the major producers of gas? BP and Shell. All right, so they're going to make certain that their LNG facility works because it's very lucrative. So on that basis, they will explore all alternatives because they don't have enough gas in Trinidad and Tobago waters, and they're not prepared to explore deeper depths. So if they could get it from Venezuela in shallow waters, well, then I'll go there. All right, now that may work for Trinidad and Tobago if the fiscal position is right. All right, the suggestion is that it is not. The minister himself has complained on several different occasions about profit shifting, but has made no move to amend the legislation to change it. So I'm not certain why he's complaining. All right. So the bottom line is I would expect them to talk. I would expect them to look at opportunities and avenues. But as you are well aware, the geopolitical situation doesn't allow for any movement on that score at this time. At least I don't see it. I don't think that 2 years is a window in which you could make any investment.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm talking about the exeat under that the Americans have provided with regard to travel.
And I mean it worsened. It worsened a little bit, at least with the rhetoric coming from the United States and Venezuela with regard to Maduro banning that opposition woman. She was always rising in popularity. I can't remember her name right now. But.
She was a Machado. She was always going to be banned. There was no question about her ever running for election. And the Americans were communicating their position on the basis of allowing her to run. She was never going to run.
Yeah.
All right. So that 2 year window is optimistic. The bottom line is all we have to do is wait until elections in July, and then we'll know what the score is. Venezuela's National Day is what? Independence is July the 5th. And the elections are 21 days thereafter. Well, you take a guess on what the result is going to be.
And will it be the same as in Russia?
Well, I mean, you could say all the kind of things like what you call it. Putin didn't kill Navalny, for sure.
Okay.
Right? But the West portrays it that way. He got a blood clot and he died of a blood clot. Now, the circumstances were such as A, B, and C. All right. I don't know if that's murder.
Well, how he ended up there in the first place, Mariano?
Well, he ended up there because he chose to be and he chose to challenge power in that fashion.
Exactly, and who he was challenging.
You want to be a martyr? Well, I'll facilitate you.
Well, okay. Well, then ultimately, he has some possibility.
I started to worry about Mariano now. You know.
When you're running a country in difficult circumstances and you have 24 NATO countries right on your border and a US that is prepared to fight a war and to basically demean you at any way that you could, you will make whatever decisions you have to survive.
Well,
that's what happens when you run the business of state. Let's let what you call it. You think Britain didn't do that? You think Britain when they let 6 million people starve in India because they had to feed the people to fight the war in England? You think they didn't let them starve? Churchill didn't make that decision? Of course he did. People make those type of decisions when they're in power. They have to make hard choices. Which one do you want?
Anyway, we have to end it there.
Run have your coffee. I ain't feel have your coffee this morning.
You know what picture came up the other day, Mariano, in my memory? Of you, Martin, and myself at Tosca Latina on Phillip Street having that drink one time after.
What you call it? On having a...
When you all sang karaoke, you did.
Yeah, karaoke, man, yes.
That came up in my memory.
Right, you have to relax too, you know. You can't be always under pressure. You have to relax.
Mariano, that's fine. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Thanks so much, Mariano, bro.
You all be safe. Have a wonderful Monday. Be careful out there.
All right, folks. Have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God.
Have a great one. Remember to smile and laugh. It's good for your health. And theater is on its way back with Love is a Walk. It's coming up in April. I'll keep you posted. We're starting off in Queen's Hall. We may be a little earlier than that, but I'll let you know. But we are en route back to you. And I'm telling you, the amount of comments on that show is amazing. Amazing. Just check our Productions theater pages and our posts, and you can check the comments, and you'll see what I mean in terms of people commenting who have come to the show in Queen's Hall and Sapa. Have a great one. Speak to you bright and early tomorrow morning.